Roadshow, episode number 485. My name is John Morgan, and cold coffee is with me, although I'm just going to call him Coffee today because there ain't no way he's cold, man. I mean, good Lord. We're setting all-time records for heat here in Las Vegas. I know this is the MMA Roadshow, not the Las Vegas Weather Update Show. But, bro, when you start hitting 120, bro,
yeah.
120, the highest recorded temperature in the history of Las Vegas. Now, granted, I think it only goes back to like 1958 or something like that because this town isn't that old.
Yeah.
But still,
yeah,
120, number one, is ridiculous. You know what's funny about it? 120, that day, Death Valley was only 129. Like, the hottest place on earth was only 9 degrees hotter than here, man. So, yes, I believe today, I'm not sure if we can actually call you cold coffee because I don't know if there's any way you could actually be cold.
Yeah, we're in like in a permanent excessive heat state out here right now. But yeah, it's funny because I remember they predicted – I remember 5 days before they predicted that it was going to be 118, and that was supposed to be like everybody was freaking out. And it was like Vegas said, hold my beer, right? You know? And then when it got to the 119, and then I saw your tweet, you're like, let's keep going, you know? Like,
yep.
And then yeah, dude, 120 is crazy. And it's funny. All I can think about is like you don't feel it unless you're really outside. I mean, like it does feel like you're in an oven. You know, I take the dog outside, and the dog's like,
no.
Can I just be inside? Like, this is crazy. It's surreal. And as much as you say you get used to it, I mean, you do get used to it, but like there's just a point where you go outside and you're like, all right, I know I can take this, but this is just too much.
Humans were not meant to live like this. Yeah. Like you tolerate it. You don't actually get used to it.
It's funny because now is the time of year where everybody starts doing like the weird science projects. I saw some news thing where they did like a cookie sheet with like cookie batter or whatever
right.
inside their dash, and then they were recording like the temperature as it was cooking. It took a little bit, but funny enough,
cookies.
It was like they did like one of those laser temperature things, but on the inside of the cart it reached like 214, 215 or something like that. That's ridiculous. But that's the shit that's why it's so dangerous, and people out here are like, don't leave your pets in your car, even if you're having AC. Like, there's no reason. Just don't take your animals. You know, like if you got to go to the store, go home first.
Animals die out here.
Easily.
Animals die in the car.
Animals, babies, people, all kinds of shit, man. It's bad. Like and it happens so quick. It's without even thinking about it. So yeah, this is the time of year. It's like, and it's not just here. I mean, you hear about it everywhere. So that's our public service announcement. And out of the weather, our weather break is to people check your cars. Do not leave your animals. Do not leave your children. Don't leave your groceries. I made a mistake of that. I remember.
You left your groceries in the car?
Last year, I went and. Or maybe it was the year before, back when I was like trying to juice, and I remember I picked up a cabbage.
Oh, you were taking steroids?
No, cabbage.
No, you were juicing.
Oh, I was like, how'd you get that from?
He's like, I said cabbage.
So like, so I didn't even think about it, but I remember thinking like, oh shit, did I not put that in my cart? I was like, I thought I bought that cabbage. I was like, whatever. And then I went out to the car, like, you know me, if I don't have a reason to get out in the car, I don't get in the car.
There.
2 days later, I went out to my car, and it was so stinky. I was like, what is going on? I found the cabbage had rolled out of the bag and somehow rolled into this portion of the trunk, because this is back when I used to carry gear in the back seat, so I had one of the seats rolled forward. You know, I'm just on the junk. So much junk. I had one of the seats down, and I think it rolled into like the little crevice, so I didn't notice it. And then when I went out there, it had almost like disintegrated, and it was like a hot mess, and it stank for like, I felt like it stank for weeks. I was trying to like burn incense in there. I was trying to do everything I could think of, and it was the worst smell ever, and it just happened so quick. So yeah, check your groceries. Don't leave your groceries in your car. Maybe even more so than your children.
It was funny. Like, I don't know, this picture came to mind. I don't know why. I'm in a mood today. You were talking about burning incense. I was thinking, like, and I was just sitting there, like, playing The Cure and Mazzy Stars, and I was burning some incense.
I was like, oh. Dude, I should have brought some sage because there were some demons living in that car at that point. It was so bad. But yeah,
it's crazy right now.
This weather, man, it is something. But you know, that's part of Vegas, man. It's hot, but it's sunny. It's beautiful outside. It's
gorgeous. Still love it.
Yep.
You just have to put up with this. It's gonna be like 118, 117, 116. It is. I'm looking at the weather prediction. By Sunday, the high is only 106. So you know what I mean. Like, it's
child's play.
We're almost out. Actually,
Yeah, the cold front's coming through.
I actually had to buy a couple extra like box fans for the house just to because you can have your air conditioning on, but your air conditioning can be running like full speed all day long, and it's still not going to keep up.
And it depends on what you want your bill to be.
Well,
I mean, we bitched about NB Energy plenty of times. We don't need to do it again. But yeah, in the bedrooms, in the guest bedroom, I have a fan. In my bedroom, I have a fan. In the music room, I have a fan because I use the AC to sort of bring it down to a relative temperature, and then for then the fan is going to be what I sleep with. Because if you try to make the AC on, your bill's going to go crazy.
Oh,
my bill now, I think it's in the 250s to more.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I don't use a lot.
You keep
I don't
it low.
use it a lot. So it's crazy when I see what people get.
$300-$500
Super easy. Super easy. I don't know how. I know you do the pay every month.
Yeah.
You don't spread it out. So
during the winter, mine
dread that
lows.
shit. I dread that shit. Like I don't want 1 month there. All of a sudden there's like a $400 or $500 bill, and I'm like, I'd rather spread it out over the year and just have that set thing that you can sort of budget out or whatever. Then you know how much beer money you have. You know how much ramen money that you have.
And the important thing is I'll be sweating all day long, but at least I can drink.
Yep.
Oh, man. All right. Well, listen, it is hot. Where I guess it wasn't so hot was in Anaheim, California, right? We didn't get to talk about it. I did not do an and a half after Diaz and Masvidal this past weekend, but you were out there. I just want to get your last thoughts on it because I'll be honest with you, we kind of talked about it going into it. And I wasn't all that excited for it. And I even said, I felt kind of guilty because, given the parties involved, I felt like I should be more excited about it. But I think it was just because it was a boxing match, not an MMA fight. It just didn't catch me the same way.
To be fair, they didn't even look that excited about it.
This indeed.
Yeah.
This indeed. Yes. If they're not even fired up, why am I supposed to be fired up? But I'll say, obviously, I went ahead and watched it. I'm going to watch it anyway because of this guy. I mean, A, it's part of our job, but B, it's, this is what I love. I watched it, and I want to get your thoughts on it because I'll tell you what, I got done with that fight. And I'm not sure if I 100% agree with the scoring. I go both ways. I'm not a boxing expert. Yeah. You know what I mean? To me, it seemed like Masvidal was landing the more
substantial.
Yeah, exactly.
More damage. You heard Dominic Cruz in your head saying, damage.
If you look at MMA
that's
scoring,
the big thing.
Whereas Nate had the volume. That's what he does. So, again, I'm not saying it was controversial. I just didn't know if I scored it the same. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a boxing scoring expert.
Yep.
So I didn't know about that. But I'll be honest. When I turned the pay-per-view off, I was like, that was fun.
Yeah.
I had a good time.
The main event was a lot of fun. And I'm the same way. And we even had this discussion on this week's MMA Junkie Spinning Back Click where we were talking about whether are we so attuned to how we watch MMA fights and how we base damage as for who's winning a round as opposed to the quantity.
Yeah.
I mean, that being said, there were a lot of those little pitter-patter shots that were getting through, but there were a lot that were getting blocked. And I'm wondering if still – because there was something – I don't know if it was Sean Porter or somebody that put it out where – part of the boxing judges, they look into who's sort of pushing the fight, who's dominating, who has the offensive, and who's on the back, who's holding off. I definitely felt there were points where Masvidal, when he would get up against the rings, he was sort of just covering up and he was eating some shots, waiting for those big explosion. And when he exploded, he was doing lots of damage and he was hurting or at least stunning Nate. And then I was like, so then at that point, I'm like, well, if I look at the pitter-patter that put him up against the ring and his explosion out, I'm going to lean towards the explosion.
Right.
But then I'm like, maybe the judges are like, okay, well, one, he's controlling it. Maybe that's their version
the ring generalship. We hear that.
Maybe that they put that with the fact that, he landed 8 uncontested shots, whether they be substantial real damage thing. If they don't really take that damage into account in their scoring, I can see where they're in their minds are like, he had 8 uncontested shots. George threw 3.
Right.
I'm going to give that section that I saw right there to Nate. And I know a lot of us, too, we tend to score sort of even though even in MMA, it's, round by round, the judges score. But I think we also have that built into us where we look at the overall performance of the night.
Right.
And we look at what Nate was doing. And while he was busy, while he was pushing, Masvidal was had all the bigger, more substantial shots. So I leaned his way.
I see. That's what I'm glad you see it that way because that's what I felt. But
I blame myself. I blame my MMA bias.
I don't want to blame. That's it. I don't want to stand here and be like, those judges don't know what they're looking at because I'm like, no, I'm the one that doesn't know what I'm looking at.
Exactly.
I'm judging on MMA basis because I thought the same thing. And I do think that maybe if Jorge was a little bit busier, that probably would have helped his case because you're absolutely right. Like he was moving backwards at times and seeing the volume. So
it never looked like when he was holding back, like when he was shelling up, that it was ever hurt. I think as you could see as he got tired towards the end, where I could say, okay, maybe that's a part there where, I can tell he's still waiting it out, but he looks like he's taking some shots. And I'm like, okay, he didn't explode out of that one. So that one's, I can't, give him the same justification at the beginning where I was like, okay, he's just waiting him out. He's playing him around. He's setting him up. But it was fun. In terms of the crowd, I don't know how it came off.
Looked like it was full.
It was packed.
Yeah,
I couldn't see an empty seat. There was points, so they were billing it like the Mosley Jr. Fight that was on the co-main. That was the fight. There was two fighters, two legit boxers, and like, okay, here's something new for you boxing guys.
Right.
It got to the point where of course they were doing what they needed to do, and landing good shots, but it wasn't like crazy exciting like an MMA fight. So like even I watching it, but you could see the crowd was getting restless. The crowd was like, come on, come on. So they started doing the wave. And you start hearing it get really loud, and you thought it was a fight, but it was like, okay, no, they're doing a wave. So wave started on the bottom and would go around. Or start on the top first. Maybe it started on the top, and it'll go around, and then say it stopped. And when it stopped, and some section broke it, the crowd would be like, "Boo!" Then it start back up, and then everybody, when they did their section, when they had to stand up, gave this big cheer. So all of a sudden, this roaring like cheers were going while this sort of mediocre boxing was going on in the ring, because there was one section where there was nothing really happening, or is it maybe even a round break. And then it just kept going. And then simultaneously on the bottom one started. And it at one point was going the opposite direction. So you had this crazy two-level wave that I've never seen go.
I don't think I've ever seen
and then every time it would stop, boo. And then they would start it back up. And then at one point it had both sections go in the same direction, but it went literally for minutes, or maybe even longer. It was like the longest wave I've ever seen of a whole entire arena getting into it, and it went forever, and it was so fun just kind of getting caught up into that. Everybody forgot that we were even watching a boxing match because you just got so into the fact of what they were doing. And it's kind of weird because you kind of think like, okay, that must mean that the night wasn't good if you're paying attention to the crowd, but everybody was so amped up waiting for the event that was coming right after it that was their way of giving off the energy that they were excitement, because they're like, they just couldn't get through the boxing match soon enough to get to the match that they all came from. And it was outrageous. I mean, I thought the walkouts that some of them did, I thought it was cool that Floyd came out and represented his dude. That got a nice little pop.
That kid, by the way,
he's tough, dude.
Bro.
For 18
as
years
young
old,
as he is,
he's going to be a problem.
Oh my goodness!
What do you think? I was like, Ryan Garcia has been fucking just shit crazy in the social media. So a lot of people were surprised that he walked out because they thought maybe he would just not be there. But what I wasn't so shocked by that, because I thought his brother's fighting, okay, he's just going to eat crow and he's going to show up. But what was weird is after his brother lost, he sort of did this weird like scurrying out of the venue rather than stay and walk out with his brother, and I thought that was just kind of shady.
I thought that was really weird, because I thought the same thing. Like, I'll be honest,
I don't know if it made it on TV, them showing him leave or anything.
I don't remember if I saw it on TV, but I remember seeing some social media posts and stuff like that. And I thought it was weird too, because this whole Ryan Garcia thing is really weird. You know what I mean? Like, if you're following it close, like how much of it is real, how much he tries to say he's faking it, but like there's no way, man. You know what I mean? So there's some real problems there. And I thought the same thing as you. People are like, oh, I can't believe he's there, and I'm like, well, it's his brother. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna be there for my brother, but if you're gonna be there for your brother, be there for your brother.
I think he left before they even. I mean, you knew how the fight was going to sort of end, but I mean, I feel like he left even before they made the decision, or maybe it was immediately after, but it was certainly before his brother left the ring. I was like,
you're better off. Like, I've seen guys like Eric Nixick, Henry Hooft, who will leave the ring if their guy wins because they want to go warm somebody else up, right? You know what I mean? Like, they'll bounce. I said the ring, the cage. Yeah. They'll leave because they got to run back to the locker room and warm up somebody else they have on the card. But if their guy loses, they'll stay with him and walk back with him. You know what I mean? It's like if your brother wins and you're like, all right, I'm dipping. You know what I mean? Like, cool. All right, that's fine. When they win, they don't need you. Yeah. When they lose, that's when they need you. Yeah. So I thought that was weird.
He even came back out, not Brian, but Sean came back out afterwards and signed like a bunch of autographs. Like, the fans were totally into him. I thought the talk between him and Vargas was fun. It was crazy, like boxing talk, dynasty versus dynasty or family versus family. Maybe not dynasty is not the right word. But I thought it was interesting. They came out and they gave a good fight. But, I was just like, the kid he did what he needed to do. And I think he had a lot of pressure, too, on his shoulder. One, trying to maintain the Garcia name, but also that pressure of, like, your brother's out there in the world acting a fool. And this is your fight week. And who knows what pressures are going on. And then at the very end, after the fight happens, you lose. I thought it was really, really big of him to go out there and still give a lot of love to the fans, because he had a lot of fans that were there with him as well, even by our section of the media where we were at, that were definitely Garcia fans, and he made sure to go out there and give him love. And I was like, this is a point where I know the guy's kicking himself and he's probably down. His brother is nowhere to be found, but I thought it was really big of him, and it showed a lot of maturity for his age to go back out there and sort of mingle with the crowd, even though he just got beat up there, even after talking about how he was going to end the Vargas dynasty. Like, he talked a good game, but he went out there and he did
That's what we like, right?
But yeah, it was great. It was great. But, honestly, like, the environment was electric. The week was kind of fucking crazy, but that was just whack-ass body stuff, Like, I tell myself, the post-fight. Don't get me started on the post-fight. So they make us wait to go into the back to go into the room, because, of course, they're like, wait, we're going to walk you out there. Don't try to run in the room. But, of course, there's the typical fucking boxing media that always just runs.
Yeah.
Don't pay attention to what they said, ran to the back, got set up in the center, of course, whereas we all wanted to go through, but there was one of the guys there that for the promotion, they're like, please, guys, don't wait here like the email said.
Like, okay.
So we're like, okay, we did. But by doing so, by the time that we got to go back there, all the camps had kind of went back there and were filling up this small 6-foot wide hallway, so that we were trying to, like, push through people to get to the media room. We get inside the media room, and within 5 minutes of getting in the media room, they brought Chris Avila.
You're like, bro,
I was like, bro, I wasn't even set up.
up.
So, like, I was able to hit record on my camera, but my stream didn't get live until, like, the last question or something. I was like, if you're going to make us wait, give us
then
time.
You got to wait, too.
Give us time to, like, get this started. If not, like, why am I here filming this? Like, I was so
You understand
pissy.
what our role is here, right?
I was so pissy. I was just like, fuck boxing. And as we're walking, like, trying to cut through people, I was like, this is why I say I don't like covering boxing.
You said that?
Yeah. Of course I did.
I love it. What? All right, so you went through the week. You saw the post-fight, all that. Obviously, man, Nate's got options. Do you have I mean, he threw a lot of stuff out there as to what could be next. Do you have an idea what you think?
It's not going to be Jake Paul. Jake Paul doesn't. I don't think Jake Paul wants to do anything with him. I mean, I think if he could go back to MMA, I mean, I think that's probably a good thing. I mean, if there's somebody that he could figure out in boxing, I think that's probably a better play. I mean, I think it clearly shows that if a fight takes place in that area, he's gonna bring the crowd. So I mean, whether it's boxing or MMA, I just don't know what name. I know he called out he called out Jake.
Yep.
Who else did
he say he wants to fight Leon?
It's never gonna fucking happen. Like that's just so clueless.
I mean, I laid out a case this past week. The only way it could happen is if Leon Edwards. First of all, he has to beat Bilal Muhammad, right?
Yeah.
And then if Leon, that's a tough one, and that's a challenge. That's not an easy fight.
Yep.
But if he does, because I was talking about this past week with Every Man, is that if Leon was like, bro, I'll take that fight again. I whipped his ass last time. I'll whip his ass again. But you'd have to have Leon in on it, right? Because Leon would have to be like, that guy's making his living off of saying that he had that one moment against me. I beat him for 24 minutes and a half. You know what I mean? And now he's trying to say I want to fight him again. And this time I won't let off the gas for that 1 30-second clip. I'm going to go at him for 25 minutes. I'm going to dominate. I'm going to finish him this time. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only way it would happen. But
Conor has a better chance at getting
100%. You gotta do the trilogy.
Gotta
do the trilogy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Conor has a better chance of getting Leon than Nate Diaz does.
Conor could get John Jones if he wanted,
Nate
bro.
and Conor doing a boxing would be fun, and I guarantee, But what we saw this week is Nate hates doing promotion.
On his contract that he can't get through.
Yeah. Nate hates promoting his event, and you could tell this week by the end of it. I don't know if it was a matter of I will credit the promotion, the venue, the ticket prices. I saw some tickets were like $25, whatever they did. That was right.
Yeah.
They did the right decision to fill that place up because it made
whether they gave him away, they sold him for $5, whatever. They still got people in the door.
Yeah, they got a huge amount of people.
And when you look at what their purses are, it was a profitable event, but they got people in the door.
And that's the thing. I mean, we only see that we see the 500,000, we see the 300,000. We realize that even though they take little taxes, there's other stuff going on outside of it. That's not what they made on it. But when you think about what he's able to command, like maybe Conor would do something, but it's like Nate hated promoting. So like the promoter's like, we need you to do this presser. By the end, he's like, fucking hate this. I just want to fight.
I
just want to blah blah blah. Yeah. Face off with yourself. And then so he had his moment. And then the last presser of the fight week, that was like Jorge got tired of waiting. Like that was, I mean, I don't think anybody was surprised thinking like, oh, Diaz is going to make us wait.
Right.
But I could see where Jorge was like, this is just crazy disrespectful. Everybody's sitting around waiting. I think my stream was live for almost like an hour before we got to the presser, before the actual thing happened.
That was crazy.
And I can see where he was just like BS and just completely pissed off about it. But so if you want Nate to make these big boxing things, it's like he wants to fight, but he doesn't want to do the work to do it. I know as part of the promotion, I'm sure they got extra pay for it, but maybe he's figured out. He's like, I know I'm supposed to do whatever to make this promotion, but I'm still making ass load of money. So
what do I care?
What do I care? That it could have been bigger if I actually was doing all the stuff. Yeah. But if he could stay in boxing, I just don't see him winning in MMA anymore. I just don't think his skill set's there. He tries to stay up and stand and strike, and he doesn't have the striking. When you allow the fighters to kick, to elbow, to grapple, to hold you, to clinch you, he's going to lose. And this is no slight to him. It's just I'm looking at what his past fights were. I mean, like he's not the same guy. The last time he got in a fight, he got his head busted open.
Yep.
I think boxing is a better play for him, and at that point, call your shot. I mean, maybe he has a chance to get some big ones, but as much as I'd like to see him back in the UFC, if
Conor
he does,
fight's got to happen.
The Conor I mean, that would be
Conor's
worth
got
it.
to fight first.
Yeah, and Diaz will lose. Unless he's able to make Conor want to get in a boxing match, like talk his smack and doing a boxing. I mean, the difference of going back into the striking. If you had to score that fight, what we saw between him and Jorge in an MMA scoring, who would have won?
I think Jorge.
I think Jorge would have, and that's the thing that I think would happen if he tries to keep that style and go back to MMA fighting like that. He'll lose.
You see Michael Chandler, by the way, getting a little spicy on Twitter.
I can't remember who he called out.
He actually said Nate. He's like,
yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, because Conor's on his boat.
He said, me and Nate Diaz fight like real men while Conor sits on a yacht and watches on pay-per-view in his slippers.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was funny.
But
then there was a few more. Then he was like, somebody responded to him, ain't happening. Conor won't fight in the UFC again because he tweeted something about the Sphere. And Chandler was like, the new Where's Waldo? The Mac Daddy had a great run, though. And then somebody said, what's your strategy against McGregor? And he said, instill fear, let him pull out of the fight and embarrass himself and be known as the guy wwho retired McGregor without ever throwing a punch. Like, Michael Chandler getting spicy on Twitter. I like it.
But did you see the pic of everybody saw the slippers one. Did you see, I think it was maybe yesterday, the day before, where he's like, it just shows a bottle of wine getting poured, and you can see like it looks like a kid off
Conor's
the
picture.
Yeah, and it looks like maybe like some Greek tzatziki, like look great. But the thing that stuck out in my head is like,
so he's not training camp.
Well, not that, not even that. I think it was a matter of like he's like, I don't want you pouring my wine unless you have a glove on your hand. Like it was like this awkward, oversized white serving glove that was like didn't fit well, but I just felt like I don't know if the boat was just like they're gonna like try to, because it was obviously the table was dressed very nicely. It was whatever. But in my head, I was like, Conor's like, don't you dare pour my wine unless you're wearing a glove. Go back and look at the picture.
Looking at it now.
You see the glove? It's like an all oversized loose glove that looks like like somebody just
First
threw it
of all,
on.
I commend you for your attention to detail because I did not notice that at all, and it does look like Mickey Mouse is pouring his. It's just a big.
It's just this huge glove.
So that's what my first thought when I saw that, and it was yesterday actually. I was just like literally, it was just like a sigh, like, oh. So not training camp, you know what I mean? And I wanted
the menu. I didn't even think about the training camp. I was like, boy, that looks good. And I was like, oh, they put that shit on skewers. I was like, oh, it must be like some Greek Mediterranean dish, and then I noticed the glove.
That's hilarious. I started to retweet it and be like, one last hurrah before getting back into camp or something, but I wasn't drinking at the time, so I didn't bother tweeting. That's the only time I basically take to Twitter.
Yes, we figured out that the only time that John tweets is after he's been drinking.
By the way, if you see me post anything that's not specifically like the updated rankings or what's going on with CFFC
or an
interview, if you see my opinion on something, you can know that I've had a few frosty beverages at that point.
We've been together so long now. It's so funny. I see your tweets. I'm like, I can tell what level of the night that you went into.
Well, all right, let's get to those tweets. Hey, one last thing I want to be. And you were watching you were watching it live on the broadcast. You mentioned Sean Porter. It was funny. I can't remember what fight it was in. I think it was early on in the night on the main card because I didn't watch the prelims when Sean Porter was talking.
I didn't hear any of the commentary, but I did hear. Now I would like, before we move on, your thoughts on? I heard O'Malley killed it. I didn't hear it, but I heard O'Malley killed it.
O'Malley was great, man. If it was a little like he wasn't like smooth at first.
Did he go the whole night?
Yeah. Well, I only watched the main card. I didn't watch the prelims, but
I don't think he was there for the prelims. I think he came out.
I only watched the main card.
But he was the whole main card.
Did a great job. His analysis was spot on. But it was so this was actually funny. This wasn't his analysis. It was actually funny. So Sean Porter at some point was like, they talking about like the crossover. It might have been during Avila Pettis or something. I don't know. But Porter was talking about like O'Malley. Hey man, if you box, you gotta really work on that jab. And O'Malley was like, you haven't seen me fight, have you? Just like, that's hilarious, dude. He just called him out like, O'Malley has a pretty good jab, bro. You definitely have not watched him fight before.
But again, it makes you think. Like, we've had this discussion. It feels like it's that age-old discussion where like there's MMA boxing and then there's boxing.
Right.
Maybe he has him, and he just like, okay, I'm not gonna take this on.
You have a really nice MMA jab.
Yeah, he's like, bro, for MMA boxing, MMA boxing, you're pretty solid, dog. He's like, but your feet work shit. Your blah blah blah's this. Your blah blah blah.
About it like that.
But because you figure at some point, you can't, if you know that it might become argumentative, you call enough shows like. At some point, you have to have the wherewithal to pull back and not re-comment after somebody's made a comment.
Right.
Almost like, I'm going to let you win that one.
Yeah.
Because if I go in, I feel like it happens all the time with like DC, Dominic, Bisping.
Yeah.
Somebody at some point has to just pull back and let somebody
all right, I'm going to let it go. Let's move on. We are calling a fight here. Let's give some attention to the athletes.
But I'm glad that he chirped back.
It was fun.
But it makes me think, like, Porter.
And Porter's sharp too.
He's sharp as hell.
He's sharp.
Earlier, before the ceremonial weigh-ins, they had him run a breakdown of like the whole card.
Yeah.
From memory, just standing up there on the stage talking to dude, and I was like, "Holy shit!" He's like, good. Porter knows his shit.
Yeah,
so
he's really good.
I would not be surprised if Porter has actually seen him strike, but he was just like, "That's MMA boxing, bro."
Yeah.
Have you seen me fight?
That's so great. All right, so listen. As you said, my wife and kid are gone right now, so they're in Mexico right now. They went to go visit the in-laws.
I understand.
I'm rolling solo. So
how long? When are they back?
2 weeks.
Oh, good lord!
So
your Twitter
pay attention to Twitter for the next 2. I might just turn off social media for 2 weeks.
Oh my god!
I did have a couple of frosty
after 8 o'clock. You should turn it so it doesn't allow any posts after 8 o'clock at night.
Limit myself. It's so true.
Too bad you can't prompt it like, AI, if I try to tweet after 8, can you please prompt, do you really want to post this? And then when you say yes, it says, like, no. But are you sure you want to post this?
It's so true. So last night, I caught up on The Ultimate Fighter. But I will say, and again, yes, if you ever see me tweeting about something that's not CFFC or my interviews or the updated rankings, you know that I've probably had a few cocktails. Last night was the case. But I will say, my opinions stand on The Ultimate Fighter. If you haven't watched any of The Ultimate Fighter at all, and I get it, a lot of people like they're over it or whatever. The last 2 episodes were really good. 2 episodes ago, Zigomatis Ramaska and Beksad Usmanov, the fight is so good. It's one of the best fights of.
That was last night?
That was 2 weeks ago. That was not last week. That was the week before because I just watched it last night. I didn't watch the previous week because of the holiday and all that. It's worth it. So go back and watch the one from last week. At least watch the fight. It's a damn good fight. And I did want to give a shout out to Mark Smith as well. There was just one moment I noticed in there as a referee that I thought was really sharp. It was a moment where you could see that there was about to be an illegal knee, like Beksad was down, and you could see basically Mark shouted out, he's down like right before his opponent was about to throw the knee, and I was like, that's sharp. Don't just see it and wait for it to happen. Now, I know the referees aren't supposed to get involved.
Yeah.
But, man, if you can, especially in a bang-bang spot like that, if you can just warn the guy, like, hey, he's down, I just thought that was sharp refereeing. Like, jump in there and do that. So, anyway, the fight, I'm talking. I don't know if it's, I haven't seen the rest of the season yet. It's got to be fight of the season. It's one of the best fights we've seen on Tough.
So is that better than what happened last night?
Last night the fight was not great. The fight was actually one-sided. But the show was incredible. The storytelling on it. So there's two reasons to watch last week. If you just want to watch a fight, last week's fight is great. But the one from last night was incredible storytelling, right? I really, really thought it was good. I thought they did a phenomenal job. You had Ryan Loder, who basically, I guess it's a spoiler, but I mean, they've already tweeted in social media, like he dominates the fight. But the storytelling going into it, man, Ryan Loder, it talks, he's talking about his childhood and how he was like, dyslexic, and he had like learning disabilities, and like basically like in like his teachers in school were like would tell him and his parents, like, bro, get him in a trade school, like this kid is never going to be able to make it to college, like, and so he says, like, I felt dumb, and he's like, but I took up wrestling and I loved it. He's like, and now I want to represent all those people. He's like, all of you out there that you feel like you're dumb, you feel like you're not good enough, people are telling you that. He's like, I want to stand and represent you, man. I want to fight for you. And I thought that was just a really beautiful story. And then his opponent, heartbreaking, man. His opponent, heartbreaking. Thomas Theocaris, Canadian. He talks about like being in love.
USA.
Now you're gonna feel bad. It's heartbreaking. He talks about like he had this girlfriend that he was like completely in love with. She went on a trip to Greece, and they don't go into a lot of detail, but I guess she fell, and I'm assuming like hit her head or something. She died. Like
on her vacation?
Yes,
Holy
and she
fuck.
died. And so he finds out about it. He's heartbroken. So he goes back to console himself with his best friend, Elias Theodoro.
No shit.
Who then dies shortly after.
Wow.
So like everything, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know, man. It was just, to me, I'm like, man, this is the shit that like.
That's what Tough's about.
It's what Tough's about, and it's what makes me love this sport, man. Like these people that just don't have, they've had these heartbreaking lives and these stories. So anyway,
and it's different with an hour platform as opposed to the Contender Series, which is about to fire up on the same night, Tuesdays, where you get a 5-minute package, if that. And I don't even think it's a 5 minutes, more like a minute package. Because I remember they used to give them to us before when we did our show.
We did run them on the preview show.
And I want to say that was about a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes. So each guy is getting about a minute or 45 seconds as opposed to a whole show. And this is what Dana's always said too. Like, and I think this is outside of like a great fight like of last week, which I need to go back and watch. One of the redeeming qualities about this show is that you're actually getting to really know a fighter and possibly love a fighter and really understand their story. Where as Contender, which we love the Contenders, it's like your fist shows up, your fist tells your story in the Contender Series, where
the packages are good, but they're short, they're you know what I mean? You learn a little bit, but
never
not
get
like
anything. They're just in a gym, they're in the apex, like working out, or the PI working out, and you're just like, okay, and they try to glimpse over a quick story, but
it's good.
The
last two episodes I think are worth watching. One is just great television, and one is an amazing fight. And by the way, if Valentina Shevchenko is totally like, I think I didn't like the way she was painted in the beginning because like everybody was calling her crazy.
Like
we talked about the whole no water thing. Like, bro, she's killing it as a coach, man. Like,
so what's the record at now?
I don't pay attention to teams. I lose track of the team record, to be honest with you. I forget who's on what teams.
I need to catch up.
But her her connection. She takes the team out to Lake Mead and shows them because she's always out there, right? So she takes them out to Lake Mead and she enjoys that. There's also a scene where like the fighters, a couple of guys on the same team are kind of going at it on the mats. Like there's a tense moment. It's like she jumps in the middle of it. She's like, what are you doing here? I mean, she's really just, I mean, here's this 125-pound woman against these bigger fighters, and she's just right in there being like, what are you doing? What are you fighting yourself for? Like, you got this opportunity, and what are we doing? I mean, she's just a great coach. The message is great. It's cool. Awesome. So anyway, I know that I'm a Valentina Shevchenko fan, and I felt like people were turning on her in the beginning. I think the whole Grasso trilogy series has caused some irk in some people, and then the opening The Ultimate Fighter, they were
going against, they're rewriting how great she was, because of those losses, It's like, bro, you could still say one of those fights didn't go the right way, but I mean, like, if she wasn't the way she was, she would never have reached the pinnacle of where she is. I mean, like, I feel like it's silly that anybody has to defend her, and people that are like coming at her for stupid, they just must be Alexa homers or something. But I mean, how can you blame?
You can be both.
Yeah,
you can be both.
Why can't you be both? You can love Alexa and think
You
she's
know what I
cute
mean?
as a button, and
Yep.
think Valentina is an absolute badass. But
That's
yeah,
good.
that's interesting.
It's worth catching up on. It's worth checking out.
She
So,
seems like, and even when we had a chance to interview, and I can't remember when they did the media day, if they were completely done with taping or if they were just in the middle of it. You know what you're going to get with both of these ladies. Like, you knew you were going to get, somebody that was completely invested. I think anybody that looks at Valentina, if you think that she wasn't going to give everything into the show, it would just be silly.
that's all she
like,
knows.
that's all she
Bro,
knows.
She's just like,
What doesn't she go at
Yeah.
110%? I mean, even when like her hobby of like firearms and shooting guns, she's like made herself like a marksman. It's ridiculous.
yeah. She could probably go out and be competitive, like in like professional shooting.
I guarantee she probably could.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That's her attention to detail. But yeah, I mean, it makes you want to. I do want to go back. I did see some of the clips going outside, and right now, boy, you want to talk about if they had to do that right now is brutal. We were just me and Oscar. We were talking about because like the cold coffee gym is not the cold coffee gym. It is hot as fuck gym. It's like I got a thermometer out there. It was 106 when we were working out in there.
Derek
yesterday.
Lewis gym now. 'Cause It's hot as balls out
It's
there.
hot
You
as
know.
balls. But like putting yourself outside and working in some of those extremes, studies have shown that it pays off better than working out, say like in an air conditioned gym, or say like on a treadmill where your brain zones out. The cognitive part of when you're outside working and working in the outdoor extremity, you stay more in tune, so your cognitive function is more in tune, so you actually get better workouts. And besides the extreme that it puts on your body. So yeah, I saw the outside side. I was
That's
like,
interesting. Like when people talk
she's
about like
smart as fuck.
connecting with the energy of nature and stuff like that, there may actually be
There is
something
some truth
to that.
I mean, because I think there's even some studies that show older people that say if they've always worked outside and they've worked outdoors in their 30s and their 40s or whatever, as they've aged and whether in their 60s and up and they're still working in the same field, they have the same sort of energy level that they had younger because they say that the brain function has been engaged this whole time, this cognitive, that it's made them be sharper than somebody that say goes inside or retires at 60 and doesn't keep that activity. And there's always something about activity, but they're saying the activity in the outdoors ratchets it up from just doing the internal thing. And it makes a lot of sense. You see people go to the gym, they hop on a treadmill, they put their headphones on, they just zone out. They're staring at the eye candy. Whereas, say, if you're outside and you're running, you're always focused on what's around me, what's the scenario, where the wind is, the feel of the ground underneath your feet. Is there a car coming by? Is there other people out there? You're just sharper. I think
Is
you
there
get
a
more of a
rattlesnake
workout.
in the area?
Is there a rattlesnake in the area? Are there crazy death mutant scorpions out here? Zombies, if they're out by your old place. So, but
We're checking out. All right, so
Yeah.
one more drunk tweet sent out last night, but I think you liked it.
this is John's drunk tweet section.
Yeah, I think you liked it. And again, I have no idea why this popped in my head. Was the Dan Ige tweet that I sent out? So after I watched the 2 episodes of The Ultimate Fighter, then I pulled up UFC Fight Pass to see what was on there that I hadn't caught up with. I saw UFC Unfiltered on there, and I watched that. And the Dan Ige obviously has been doing the media rounds after his incredible performance at UFC 303, coming in on hour's notice. And I don't know why this occurred to me, but I tweeted out, I just realized the interview we still need on the Dynamite Dan story. How the hell did they get his uniform kit together? Like, and I joked, did they ask him to bring an old one? Who was the person stressing out trying to get this kit done? And it's the dumbest detail ever. But since you and I know, like, we see so much behind the scenes, like, I don't know if people realize this. I mean, it seems like a dumb thing, but like, all those uniform kits are created on site every week. Like, I think we've talked about it in previous years. I mean, obviously we've been doing the show for almost a decade, but like, it's insane when you're on site, especially early in the week, when you see the uniform team, like unpacking cases of shirts and shorts and whatever, and like all the lettering and all that stuff. It's all hand pressed and hand created, like right there. It's not as if there's some manufacturing plant that like ships this to the athletes or ships it to the UFC or whatever. So as dumb of a detail as it is, I was thinking about that, like, all right, so obviously we praised Danny Ige. We praised the production team that got like a package together, right? And had that ready to go, which was cool. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously remember the main card open was short because they just cut out the co-main event because they didn't have it at that point. But by the time they got to the co-main event, they had something for them. And obviously we know they have remote access to that footage, and they just took pre-existing stuff, and that just goes to show you can get creative when you have pre-existing video on stuff. You know what I mean? You can just be like, they weren't even talking about this fight, but we'll make it look like that. But they did it, and somebody was stressing, right? Because somebody was like, oh my God, you want me to do what? Like, I got to create, and it has to be, like, I can't walk away and take a few puffs and sit back down and keep going. Like, no, this has to be done now. So somebody was stressing. But it occurred to me last night after a couple frosty beverages and watching this, somebody was stressing the F out trying to get those uniforms together for Kai and for Eric and for Sean and for Dan, like all at the same time. And it did make me laugh too because I was thinking about it. I bet they were like, thank God it's Dan Ige. It's only 6 letters I got to put on there. It's like Shavkat Raghmanov stepped in. Like, oh my God. But he did retweet it where he was like, I will say the letters were falling off, which was pretty funny.
That is funny. I didn't see that retweet.
Yeah.
I mean, because you'll see what do you call them? Apparel people there at the venue. You see them all through the fight week. And it's funny, we've seen when we're traveling, say we're going to the host hotel for like media days, and oftentimes you'll pass like the operations room or the apparel room, and you see these racks full of just outfits ready to be fitted. Some are already created, some probably works in progress.
And you see people laying the letters down on there. And I mean, it's insane.
It's crazy. So I guess they could do it quick enough, and maybe they had people on site that had enough that they're like do we have the letters? Do we have the letters here, or do we have to? Luckily, it was in town.
Can he be Dean Ige today? It's Don Ige. I don't have an A, but I got an O. Hey, do you have a V that you can turn upside down and and cut an eye off in there?
Yeah, just cut an eye, stick it in there. Luckily, it was in Vegas, so at least the warehouse or the office was close by or something. Yeah, if it was on the road, I think they would have been hard pressed, and I guarantee we would have just saw generic something. Outfit.
That's actually a good point. Like if this had happened and it wasn't in Vegas,
what would they have had on hand?
Yeah.
I mean, you figure at some point they have to have just some sort of UFC or Venom gear or whatever that's just blank with no name or something along those lines, and they would just have like blank track jackets or something like that, or maybe they just wouldn't give anything for the team if they didn't have the stuff, because at the end of the day, I mean, I guess they would be worried about the walkout. They would probably just give them like generic
it'd just be like nothing, just
some sort of random nice UFC shirt or something. But still, the questions that get raised when you're having your drink nights, but it made a lot of sense. I was like, whoa, it was like deep thoughts with John. I was funny, I was just one of those things like nobody. I didn't think of that, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's a good question.
Like some people get hammered and they want to fight people, or some people get hammered and they go
you get to the
cheat on their wife or whatever. You know what I mean? I'm just like watching MMA interviews and wondering how uniform.
You're like,
If you've ever wondered if John is an MMA hardcore, like
that's hardcore.
Drink and watch MMA.
I will say I did try to reach out behind the scenes to some people
to see who did it.
To see so was this on hand, or did you guys have to? Was there some poor soul that had to do it? And I haven't heard back. So
well, if we get the story, we'll relay it. Unsung heroes, they deserve some credit. I mean,
that's it.
How many times do you think? I mean, we've heard the apparel people get pooped on every time a letter or something falls off. So give them some credit. They had something good going on.
That's it.
All right. By the way, plugging interviews and stuff, I did get a chance to speak to Mike Perry. So if you get a chance to check that out over at Grind City Media, obviously he's always a fun interview. And, of course, he's fighting next week against Jake, which is surreal to me. Jake Paul. It was funny.
What about those ticket sales? A lot of people are talking about if tickets are going well because they saw that tweet that's offering the 2 for 1, buy one, get one free.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't. I mean, there's two camps. You could be like, hey, they just want to make sure that the venue's full. I get that. Or they're like, hey, this is really not selling. We're willing to give you 2 for the price of 1 now.
We just talked about with Nate and Jorge. Like they were selling $20 seats, and so it's look, hey.
And I don't know what the I didn't click the link, so I don't know what the official price is. There is something so different about going into a full venue that I would think as a promoter and showing that on the TV and having your TV sponsors be happy that the venue's full.
Yeah.
That they might have just been like, hey, they're like, we've hit good numbers already. Let's start giving some back.
Let's just feel it, And look, man. Hey, before we started recording, we were talking about home prices and finances and stuff like that, man. It's hard right now, to
2 for
sell
1 special
tickets.
Sounds pretty darn good.
I'm telling you, man, it's hard to sell tickets right now, and Yeah, it's not a great place for everybody. I know the UFC's killing it, but obviously that's the premium level brand of everything, and this is obviously a different sport. They're boxing, not fighting an MMA fight, but that's a premium brand. So who knows?
But we even saw what happened when that last fight, when the fights fall out. They had to reduce the prices quite a bit too.
Yeah, that's true. When
You know,
Conor was off the card.
they weren't able to just stick to the guns and charge it. I mean, it was for some areas. I want to say it was almost like half off of what they were initially asking, especially probably for some of the nosebleeds or something. So even there, I mean, they felt the bite as well. And I think if there was ever a promotion that was kind of untouchable when it came to the pricing, you would think that the UFC is the example. But even they felt
even
it.
they had to feel, yeah. It's tough right now, man. And we know, but regardless, by the way, I think Mike is a dangerous. Jake is huge compared to Mike, and so I do think Jake has the advantage, especially early on. But I maybe I'm wrong, but I think Mike has a chance to at least make this very interesting, man. I think this is,
and that's all I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
I want it to be gritty. I want it to be interesting. I want him to eat those punches and just make that little fucking smile, grit of his face, and just walk forward. And if he can get Jake into a brawl and where Jake stops being the boxer that he sort of became, he's got a really good chance. Because if he makes it a brawl, I give Mike all the credit in the world. And he's got a lot of power. If he doesn't wear himself out before the end, I mean, like, he's going to show more heart. And we've seen Jake get stunned when he gets clocked, but we just haven't seen a lot of guys be able to kind of hit him because he usually gets them out soon. But I think Mike's got a hell of a chin. I think being able to do what he's been doing in bare knuckle, to actually go in there and actually have a boxing match with gloves on, I give him that much more credit, man. So, I'm not holding my breath that he's going to go in there and shock the world, but I mean, I'm looking for him to make it very exciting, and I hope he. Well, I don't want to say I hope he bloodies up Jake, but I mean, if there's ever a guy that's going to make it gritty,
man, look,
and Perry's. I mean,
I got nothing against Jake, but when he fights our MMA guys, I'm sorry, I cheer for the MMA guys.
Yeah, I mean, Perry's no angel, but I still find myself rooting for the guy.
I like the guy. I know he's had some bad moments along the way, but I feel like he's growing. I feel like he's maturing a little bit. I feel like he's in a good spot. So I'll be watching that next week. The other thing worth mentioning, too, about Jake Paul, and I think people have talked about this before, is his fans are not necessarily, they skew younger, right? And they don't necessarily have the money to go buy tickets or maybe have the money to buy pay-per-view or be willing to even buy a pay-per-view because they know how easy it is to stream illegally. I mean, this young generation, dude, I've had to have the conversation with my kid, where he's like, oh, you can watch like any movie you want, like right here. I'm like, bro, like, how do you think those things get made? You have to pay for them, and it's a hard explanation to have because his generation is just like, well, that's just what you do. You can find this online. I'm like, no.
Do you think his fan? I think when he first started and before he started really doing these boxings, when it was still just a YouTuber, I felt like I assumed his fans were young, and I think all of us assume they're young. Now that he's been doing a lot more boxing, a lot more other stuff, I don't know if his group has changed, age group. I think he still skews young.
Yeah,
but I think
skews kid.
Yeah,
but younger.
Yeah,
not
teens. Maybe I'm sure there are some preteens and some teens that like him, but what would you say, 18 to 29, 30? 18 to 30 is probably the bulk.
Exactly.
I was going to say 18 to 24, but I think he skews higher than that.
Not the 40, 50-year-old professionals who have
but
good
at least
jobs.
I think they probably know of him now because of the boxing. Because most of those guys probably went through boxing.
You have to.
I just wonder if, still, I think the ones that are in your 20s that primarily watch YouTube for entertainment aren't going to be picking up the wallet and to go to a place. They're used to watching shit on stream, or they're used to watching stuff on YouTube. But the older ones that are slightly older that I think maybe he's starting to skew to now maybe would do it because I think he's shown that he's a legit. I mean, we said before, he's a legit boxer. He's legit.
He's not beating Canelo.
Yeah.
But he's a legitimate boxer.
But he's legitimate.
He is.
And I mean, he's doing a great job of picking opponents, and he's still doing the work. I mean, like, we're not seeing him out. I was going to say on a boat in slippers. I mean, like, I'm never going to, fault Conor because Conor's got money. Like, enjoy your money.
He won the game. Conor has no need to fight again. If he never fights again, you can't hate him for it. He won the game.
Yeah, so, do your thing. All right, so that's a bad example. Or say, a Garcia who's out, in the news for all the wrong reasons.
Right.
Jake's not doing that. Jake's doing the right thing. So, I mean, you can't even, I get it why people hated him in the past. Now, maybe if you're only hating because he's beating up your idols, then okay, that's fine. You can hate on him, but, you can't hate his game. You can't hate what he's doing.
No.
So the kid's doing great things. He's a legitimate boxer now, and he's picking great matches. I love this one because, I like it better than the Tyson because I felt bad. I felt that was going to be, elderly abuse. And I didn't want to see Tyson go through that, and I still feel like that's something we're going to have to re-deal with again in the future. But I like the fact that he chose an MMA favorite who's doing something in the bare-knuckle boxing ring, but also is a dangerous opponent. If you ask me, somebody might think
smaller,
much
but
smaller.
Dangerous.
He is smaller, but and I would think that if somebody's going to say I'm crazy, this is a more dangerous fight in my mind than the Tyson one was.
100%.
And I can see where somebody's like, "You're fucking crazy."
No, 100%.
For thinking that. I think this is much more.
Mike
dangerous.
Tyson was going to be dangerous for 1 round,
for a couple of bits. Yep,
maybe 2 rounds. At 58
and in
years
certain
old,
areas,
yeah.
You know, like if you get in close, you're going to give Tyson the opportunity to get you with that big hook.
Now
or he's going to get you an
we're
uppercut.
talking 25-year-old Mike Tyson. Yes, that's
Yeah.
way more dangerous. We're
Yes.
talking about 58-year-old Mike Tyson. So I actually agree with you.
Yeah.
I actually agree. I'll be interested.
So I credit him for
I do too.
making something better out of it.
I actually asked Mike when I talked to him in the interview, like, are you surprised that he took this fight? And I guess I probably should have elaborated on why I meant that, because he was like, no, I'm not surprised. You know, and I meant it because are you surprised he took this fight? Because I believe this is a legitimately dangerous fight and could completely ruin the Mike Tyson opportunity for him, which would be a very lucrative opportunity, you know, the Netflix money and all that. So
I still think that'll happen.
Even if he loses?
I think so.
Wow.
I think Jake's done such a good job. If the guy can effing offer $15 million to Diaz to do an MMA fight, the kid's commanding numbers that I think right now that we don't even fully understand. So I think he could take this fight, lose, and still, with what he's been able to build up, still be able to work that to Tyson. Because all he has to do is go back to Mike and like, Mike, we were going to do this anyways. We already agreed. We decided to see who was the baddest or whatever. Because it's not like Tyson's going to be like, okay, now I need to fight Mike Perry. If Perry wins, that's not going to happen.
And I think Perry has said, and I was going to talk to him about this, but we were running kind of long, and I know he had a lot of interviews, but I think Perry has basically said that, like, he didn't like the fight that Tyson was going to fight. So, like, he wouldn't be like, well, I beat Jake, now I want to fight Mike Tyson. He didn't like it either. So, yeah, I agree.
I think that fight could still actually happen. But yeah, credit to Jake for making it happen. Credit for Perry for stepping up. And I'm excited for it. We're not sending anybody to it.
Right.
But I'm excited to watch it. I'll be watching it.
I'll be watching 100%. I guess as far as ticket sales go, it's basically just going to boil down to what kind of FOMO sets in.
Yeah.
Is it the fear of missing out, or as my cultural inspiration partner over here has adopted the term, is it
fine on my own?
Look at that, bro.
Just stay home, dog.
He's got the anti-social FOMO. Cold Coffee has instituted the new FOMO into the world. I saw that on your Twitter, by the way.
I was not drunk.
You weren't drunk? You probably were. You would have had a couple. Wasn't that the PBR night?
Was that PBR night? I can't remember if that was PBR night or if it was the day after. It could have been PBR.
True genius is fueled by frosty beverages.
Yeah, especially the 24 ounces.
Oh.
So I found this random ass dive bar. Well, first, me being I have to eat at every ramen joint I can find in whatever city I'm at. I found this ramen joint that was absolutely outrageously wonderful, and there just so happened to be a little dive bar. I might have kind of planned it out that there happened to be a dive bar right by it.
It just so happened that there was a dive bar with 4.8 reviews on Yelp, and
so I walked to the dive bar and I was like, oh man, and I was like, what are they gonna order? They had like Modelo and like the various other little things on tap, and they had the whiskeys and all the other stuff, and I see this like advertisement for a big ass 16-ounce PBR, and I was like, do you have the 16-ounce pounders? And she's like, no, we don't. And I was like, oh. She's like, we have the tall boys. I was like, what does that mean?
What is that?
She's like, the 24 ounces. I was like, game on. Let's go.
A tear came rolling down the eye, just like, thank you.
Because most places, if you say the tall boy on the pounders, they mean the 16 ounces.
Right.
So when she said the 24 ounce, I was just like, okay, I'm home. I'm home. I had 6 of them.
Yes.
I was proud of myself. I was like, we're doing this. But I just, once I found because at first I had a little table and then this chair opened up at the bar, and I was like, and that's funny. I jumped up. I was like, it just meant to be. She's like, the spot was there for you. And I was like, so then it was super easy to get the pounders. But
I feel like I feel like some ramen and frosty beverages might be on tap today.
Dude, I could go that any route. I'm thinking, but somewhere
I'm rolling solo. I got nowhere to be.
Because everybody was like, they were talking about getting together in some other places. I think that was the genesis of it. And I was like, oh man, everybody's getting together. I was like, everybody's always got their FOMO. They always want to fucking get together. And I'm like, I don't want to. I just want to see their stand where I'm just want to find a dive bar. I don't want to go to where everybody's scrambling. I'm gonna have to wait for a beer. And then I was just like, I'm fine on my own. I was like, wait a second. Ding. I was like, has anybody said this?
Bro, so listen, so it's funny because I was like, you had to have like seen that somewhere. I Googled FOMO fine on my own.
Nothing.
0 results. Not a, I think.
Call it here, folks.
Bro.
Call it.
Can we
before
trademark?
Before Mike Bond takes it, if you listen to this, Mike, before you take it, I said it first.
Shots fired. Shots fired. Oh, that's great.
But yeah,
great.
So, but it's just funny because it's
copyright office trademark. Yeah. Let's get some T-shirts going.
Let's do this. But it's funny because it's the same things, but they're two completely opposite meanings with the exact same letters.
It's great.
Right?
It's great.
It's so funny.
It's great. All right, listen, there's a UFC in Denver this weekend. We're not going to talk a whole lot about it because, A, we've just been yapping it up here, having a good time. But it's
a sneaky good card.
I was going to say the same thing. I'm glad you feel that way. I think there's some matchups on here.
My team doesn't think so.
No, nobody's happy with it. I like it.
I mean, there's some that just think that they're just like, oh, well, this card kind of sucks. I'm like, bro, if you break it down, you go down the line. I mean, like, there's some really, really interesting fights, and there's some good additions. Is it
Fatima Klein?
Fatima. So it is Fatima. I didn't know if it was like Fatima or whatever.
I'm so glad you pointed that out because I am super hyped about that one.
A lot of people are so – and they gave her – Jasmine is a legit fighter. I'm like, that is a tough debut.
So here's what sucks. Jasmine also came from CFFC, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I hate
CFFCs.
to see, like, two CFFC vets get matched up. But it's a really intriguing fight. So, Fatima she was a 2-division champ for us, right? But the only reason, and it is interesting, the only reason she's a 2-division champ, I don't want to take away from her accomplishment because what she did was badass. She was supposed to fight for the strawweight belt, and the strawweight had some visa issues and couldn't get in that she was supposed to fight. So we had a replacement, but the replacement couldn't make 115. So we were like, well, we don't have a 125 title right now either. Do you guys want to fight for a 125 belt? And she was like, so she takes a short notice opponent up a division. She's like, yeah, I'll fight on short notice, 120. So then
for the belt that didn't even exist.
Exactly. So then she goes back down to the division, wins the 115 belt. So she's a 2-division champ.
Did they keep that division belt?
Yeah. So she was a double champ. So she has a double champ. So she is legitimately badass, but she is a natural 115er, right? Whereas Jasmine is
big.
She's big. Like, she's strong for the weight class. Yeah. So Fatima is way, I think, slicker. You know what I mean? She's quick, transitions, badass jiu-jitsu, whereas Jasmine is more, like, powerful and strong. So I'm so happy that you pointed out that matchup because I'm excited for it. I hate it that it's CFFC vets that are going at it. Our group chat in CFFC was like, dope, Fatima got the call. And then we found the opponent. We were like, that sucks, but it's going to be a great fight.
It's going to be. I mean, I know that's definitely one. I know Nolan King does a great job of like putting, picking and finding these fighters that people really need to pay attention on. And Klein was one of the ones I know recently. He was like, guys, if you don't know, this is one you want to pay attention to. So, and I mean. Montel Jackson, Damon Blackshear, that's a good fight. Joshua Van, Charles Johnson, that's going to be a banger.
How about Drew Dober, John Silva?
Dude.
Come on.
Dude, Silva, man, credit that dude. He's fucking, those fight nerds, man. Like, that's, to me, seemed like a super quick turnaround. I mean, he just fought at, 303?
Yes.
I'm like,
Yes. And now he's fighting Drew Dober.
Yeah.
Dude, that's a great fight.
That's a banger.
I think Salikov could be fun.
I think I need to switch my pick because I picked Silva.
Dober's a stud. Silva's a stud too, though, man. That's a banger.
You need him to not, like, he was heavy. Wasn't he heavy? Yeah, he was heavy on his last one. I just feel like there's little things that he goes into fight week not fully. I just feel like if he's fully ready, I think it'd be baller. But Drober, man, he's a fucking dog, man.
I think it's going to be a fun card. The main event is interesting to me. I honestly, I think Rose should win the fight.
Yeah.
But it's a huge opportunity for Tracy Cortez, right? I mean, if for some reason she's able to pull this off, I don't want to say it's the same because it's completely different styles, but it's almost like Fatima and Jasmine in that I feel like Tracy is definitely stronger, more powerful, but Rose is just so fast in technique and, you know what I mean? So it's like, obviously, different styles, but it's almost that same breakdown where, like, as long as Rose stays mobile and, is able to stay out of the clinch and you know what I mean, then I think she wins. But this is a big moment for Tracy Cortez, man.
Huge. I mean, she's definitely got more upside with a win than I think Rose. I mean, I think Rose, people know that she's established. I think she wants to get up there for a title again, but I think people expect her for her past that she should be able to beat Tracy.
Yeah.
Whereas if she beats her, people can be like, okay, well, we expected that.
Right.
Whereas Cortez, they're like, wow, that was an incredible win. And if she loses, they're like, well, it was Rose. I mean, it's a former champ. We get it.
Yep.
So there's definitely a lot of upside for Cortez. But, I mean, I think a lot of people maybe forgotten about her, too. We don't see her fighting all too often. So the fact that, this is a huge name. I mean, if she can get a win over Rose, she's definitely establishing herself as a contender.
It puts her at the top of the division. I think maybe she was talking to Ariel, but I saw some headlines that, like, she was like, well, look, if Valentina doesn't want that fight, if I win here, I'll take that fight. You're not gonna. I don't think you're jumping past Manon Fiorot. I mean, I'm still having a hard time believing Shevchenko won't ultimately sign to this fight. Maybe we'll have the announcement soon that she doesn't. I will be a little bit shocked if she doesn't.
Surprised.
But if she doesn't, you got Manon Fiorot right there. I don't think even beating Rose leaps you past her. But it would get you, if you're Tracy Cortez, this win would put you right in that mix where now you're talking about, hey, my next fight should be a number one contender fight. So, I like this card too. I get it, man. I understand why people might be like, oh.
And you were right about the co-main. The co-main is sick. I didn't mean to the co-main is ridiculous.
Could be a lot of fun as well. I mean, Bonfim is in there against Angelos, Abdul Razak Al Hassan.
Brundage, that fight is going to be that fight is going to be a lot of fun.
So many. These are
Juliana
fun
Rosa,
fights,
Christian
man.
Rodriguez. That's a
great.
I mean, what fight sucks on here? Like, even your boy Petrosky's fighting
Petrosky's on there as
like,
well.
Dude, it's a good card. I mean, the only one I can see, it's the opener where people are like, well, is this whatever? I mean, bro, it's the first fight of the night, but Darius Flowers a badass. I'm interested to see how he fights up against
There's
Elder.
no fight. Maria Agapova is a question mark sometimes because she's, you know what I mean?
Especially her story recently, I think it's like she, was out there on social media and saying she was homeless. She was having a hard time, because she hadn't been fighting. So I think that's an interesting element too to the fight.
To me, that's what I'm saying. Like this fight could end up being not competitive or could end up being really competitive, but that question mark makes it interesting to me because she is such kind of a wild card, and I know she deals with some kind of emotional. I know she's had some hard things behind the scenes and that factors into all that. But there's literally not a fight on here where I look at it and I'm just like, well, that fight is clearly going to suck. You know what I mean? So. I don't know, man. I'm glad you feel with me, man. This sneaky good card. I think it's going to be entertaining.
I like it. I mean, granted, we're hardcore, but I mean, I feel like when you look at the names down here, I don't feel like it's hard to sell this card.
I love what you just said because you're right. It is easy to look at this card and like we don't have a lot of number one contender fights.
Yeah, if you're looking just the rankings,
if
like
that's
in the
all
top
you're looking
10,
at, right?
Yeah.
But I love what you just said. Tell me which fight on here you think sucks.
Yeah.
If this card is so bad, tell me why it's so bad.
Yeah, and why you wouldn't tune into it. And even if you're like, well, I don't really know much about the guys that are starting the fight, the first fight, then just don't watch the first fight. Look at all the other fighters on here.
Crazy.
And so it's a really good card. This is the kind of card, I guarantee even this card, this would be a great Apex card, and people are like, oh, it's a stupid Apex card. Well, okay, well, now you take this card, now you put it in Denver. Are you now going to shit on it because it is what it is, but it's on the road. It's where you guys wanted. How are you going to shit on it? Because if this card was an Apex, we've seen some Apex cards just like this, and they turned out to be absolutely fantastic nights. We say they're going to be good. They turn out to be great. Here's that card. Now it's on the road. Are you going to shit on it now because of whatever?
A great point.
It's like you can't. Some people just can't please.
There's only one way I won't watch this card on Saturday.
Drunk, blacked out.
Well,
then you just watch it after the fact.
I'll just watch it on Sunday. No, that would be if the Nevada State Athletic Commission drops the Armin Sarukin public service announcement because I will have to watch that on replay over and over again.
Where do the PSAs live?
So you brought this up earlier. We were talking before we sat down, and I wanted to mention it. And it was funny because you mentioned the word public service announcement off the top, and I was going to bring it up right then. But I wanted to act because it is funny. You got me thinking about that. Over the years, I mean, I've lived in Vegas for 16 years now.
Yeah.
I've been going to those commission meetings for 16 years. Now, I'll be honest with you, as I sit right here, I don't think I can tell you 100% who all had to make public service announcements. I feel like Khabib was one of them. I feel like – I don't know if Nate Diaz was
I was going to say, I feel like Diaz got offered it.
I feel like Diaz got offered one. Maybe
I feel like Jones. I feel like
Jones. You're definitely right with Jones. We've never seen any of them.
Yeah,
We've never seen any of them. And it was funny because it's a public service announcement. If it never goes public, so I'm kind of interested to.
And like FOMO, you were like, well, it's still PSA. It's just a
private service. It's just for us.
It's just for us.
Sir, we never said public service announcement. We said PSA. You read into that it's a public service announcement. This is a private service announcement.
You were clearly mistaken, sir.
Yeah, it's on our server here, and we use it for internal dialogue only to train our guys. This is a private matter between us.
We train our guys to offer it to fighters for the future.
It's so, and he's got to do it right, because this is the thing that I thought it was obvious, but I feel like it's gotten kind of skewed and everything. Is that so? He was suspended from April 13th. That if it was 9 months, that would be January 13th. But the reduction was to 6 months, which would make it October 13th, which would be perfect for him to fight October 26th in Abu Dhabi. Because I've seen a lot of people saying, well, Arman can't take that fight with Islam in Abu Dhabi because of the suspension. He's clearly going to get that done, and the 3-month reduction will allow him to compete in Abu Dhabi. So I assume that is still the plan for the thing. But it does bring up a greater point that over the years we've seen these fighters agree to doing PSAs, and we've never seen them anywhere.
Yeah, and it's worth asking. And I did mention it. I don't expect it to go anywhere. I, for the first time ever, filled out a public what do you call them?
Records request?
Public records request, and I sent it off to them asking if anybody has actually done these PSAs, and if so, where in fact do they live?
Look at my guy, Cold Coffee. Boy, Cold Coffee is just stuffing his game up, bro. You thought he was just a videographer, bro?
No.
My man is getting all kinds of skills.
I am expecting 100% that it is either going to get ignored, or they're going to come back and say, sir, you wrote it like you were chatting with your best friend, and it's supposed to be much more formal than what you sent in.
Sir, were you drinking with John at this
Yeah, Jeff Mullen's gonna write back. He's like, bro, stop. Oh,
that's so great.
So yeah, we'll see what's gonna happen with that. But it's
I
just
like
one of
Jeff
those
Mullen,
things.
man. He's such a good
dude. He's great. He's
the man.
But yeah, it's just one of those. It's
We've
funny,
never seen
all
him.
those little things that you think about and they just forget, and then somebody brings it up. I will give credit to Ben Folks. He mentioned something about the PSAs, and that's what bragged it onto my mind. He was chatting about it. He was like, has anybody ever seen one of these PSAs? And it's like, I've never seen it in all the years. You know, certainly have seen it get offered like quite a bit. I see they offer it all the time. But where do they live? You figure on some of them, the fighters just like, hey, I'm not going to fight for the next 6 months anyways. I'm just going to let it go. I like suspend me for whatever.
Yep.
If you want to say I'm whatever, blah, 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 blah. And it just times out. But this one,
it's imperative.
The math.
He's got to get it
the
done.
math
So he can
doesn't
fight.
work without it.
Yep.
So Arman has to do a PSA, or it's not going to work, or there's shady business happening.
I can't wait to see it.
What do you say? When you're walking outside, people might make you upset. Do not swing at them. I promise not to swing at people when they make me mad. Whether they flip me off or not, I'm going to turn the other cheek and walk the other way. And kids, you should do the same.
I think it's more like bullying is bullshit.
Bullying's bullshit. You deserve to get your ass kicked. But don't do that unless you're fighting in a cage.
Oh, man. All right, listen, we're over already, and we need to go get some ramen and some frosty beverages, I think. But I just want to give a shout-out. PFL Africa officially announced. We've known it's been coming. I've been talking to Pete Murray for a while. It's not like it's a new announcement, but it was made official. Francis Ngannou is the chairman of PFL Africa. Very cool to see it.
Coming in 2025.
Yeah.
How dare they announce it so far out in advance?
I wouldn't even get into that. Of course you advance it. I don't want to pick.
Just teasing.
I don't want to pick
Go ahead.
on anybody.
Please continue.
You announce things in advance so you have an opportunity to sell sponsorships and create partners, and you can get things. But anyway, I've said this, and I'm going to continue to stand behind it. The PFL, this is their path to success. And I'm telling you right now, the UFC is going to go to Africa, right? And the UFC, when they come to Africa, is going to do an event that is multiple times bigger than anything PFL is going to do, just the way they did in Saudi Arabia. The PFL is the dominant brand. The UFC is the dominant brand, I should say, but the PFL is the one that's going to have the lasting presence, right?
Yep.
I mean, you look at – I was thinking about this as they launched it, and it kind of made me think about this. Like, the UFC goes and does this event in Saudi Arabia, right? And you see Turkey saying, "Oh man, now we're going to come back and we're going to do a show with 30,000." And I'm sure Saudi Arabia might be like, "You know what? We want to have a show here every week. We're going to pay you money to do a show every week." Well, the UFC is not going to be able to do a show every week. They've got all these other contracts and commitments and all these other things going on. They can't do a show there every week. But guess who can? Their other partner, the PFL. And I think that's the thing you're going to see here. Yes, the PFL is going to have this lasting presence in Africa. The UFC is going to come in and they're going to do a huge event, and it's going to dwarf anything the PFL does. And people are going to look at it and go, "Wow, look at that. PFL's nothing. The UFC blew them away. What's PFL even doing?" Yet the PFL will be profitable because they will have business partners in the market. They will have a lasting presence in the market. They will be delivering in prime time. They will be giving athletes opportunities in those markets. So I'm not trying to sit here and just be a PFL cheerleader, but, man, I think if you really take a step back from the fan perspective of, what's the biggest event and et cetera, and take a look at it from the business perspective, the PFL has something with these regional markets. I've said it from the beginning. It's a huge undertaking, but I think as they continue to deliver on these, man, this really is a big opportunity for them to continue to be a financially successful company. Maybe not the highest profile company, maybe not even the co-leader. I know that Don Davis likes to stir the pot a little bit by using that co-leader stuff, but at least a profitable business in multiple markets around the globe. So anyway, just wanted to give that one a shout out. All right. Anything? Any more FOMO? Any more cultural revolutions you got over there? Any big changes?
No. I think that's about it. I know
that's all the impact on the community. Look at, dude, you're bringing up points. You were like, there's things you wanted to talk about today. I mean,
it's the weather. It's just got me all warmed up. I'm ready to go.
Normally,
it's all that workout in the hot gym that I've been,
Normally we sit down and I just start talking and you go along. This time you're like, "Oh, bro, can we touch on this? I want to talk about that." I'm like, my man.
I will throw
485 episodes in, and my man's formatting the show.
I am going to throw Hot T under the bus. Hot T was supposed to work out with me afterwards.
Right.
He just sent me a message, and he said, what was his exact words? Okay, having a beer watching England, so workout may be disappearing.
The Euros are on right now. Oh, you know what? It's wrapping up right now. They're still tied. It looks like they're going into extra time, so maybe we can watch that. But you know what that sounds like to me, Cold Coffee? Sounds like the deck has been cleared for your schedule this afternoon, sir.
I told him, I was like, well, we can always make up the workout tomorrow.
Frosty beverages and ramen. All right, listen, appreciate everybody's support. We will be back. Thanks to everybody at patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. We'll be back with the and a half this weekend with the UFC show in Denver. So appreciate everybody that supports us over there. Starting to put all my work over there, just the other interviews and stuff. Cold Coffee's okay with that. I appreciate that. Just so you can see those things in one place, so you're not chasing it all down. So you can see Cage Side with John Morgan, part of Grind City Media over there, as well as the interviews that I'm starting to do with Grind City Media as well. Just doing like once a week for those guys as well. So I appreciate them giving me that opportunity. And can't wait to see this weekend's card with all the CFFC talent on there. And I can't wait to reveal the fall schedule for the CFFC. Ooh. Bro, I might not be seeing you much this fall. We might be doing a lot of remote stuff. We might be doing a lot of remote stuff. It's gonna get busy. So I'm looking for that. But anyway, that all comes later. Next 2 weeks, John going wild. Pay attention to social media. I got no wife and kid at home, so there might be some late night tweets going on.
Leave your phone. Turn your phone off at 8. Just schedule it to turn off at 8 o'clock.
Hours down. Off. I'm calling T-Mobile right now. Can you just disconnect my service for like 12 hours a night? Because I really need that from you. So we'll handle all that, and most importantly, thanks for listening.